In Andy Williams' Christmas song, "It's the Most Wonderful Time of the Year," there's a set of lyrics that go like this. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for toasting, caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories and tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. Scary ghost stories? What does that have to do with Christmas? I'll tell you. During the Victorian era, the late 1800s, early 1900s, it was custom, tradition, to tell ghost stories during the Christmas holiday season. Now, aside from Charles Dickens and his story, A Christmas Carol, that tradition has not lasted. But there are some storytellers who still tell ghost stories during Christmas. So, I'll tell you a Christmas ghost story. Long, long ago, 1962, I was 12 years old. My friend Joey invited me and a bunch of kids to his home for an evening Christmas party. Now, I love going to Joey's house. He lived in one of those grand Victorian homes, all wood, 3 stories, had that fancy scrolled gingerbread woodwork up the eaves and down the eaves, a massive front porch that wrapped around to the side. When you opened his massive oak front doors, you were met with a wide staircase that went up to the 2nd floor. The railing, the banister, the newel were massive chestnut, as was the framing around each window. The floorboards were a foot wide, wooden planks. And the house was filled with passageways and rooms, lots and lots of rooms. Now, in addition to that one main staircase, there were 2 smaller staircases, one on the north end of the house and the other on the south end. And the staircase on the north end was always closed, off limits to everyone. It was just a small wooden door that you opened in, and the steps were narrow and steep, but no one was allowed to go up or down them. Because the little girl who had lived here, the previous owners, she was running through the hall one day on the 2nd floor, opened that door and raced through, tripped, stumbled, fell down those steep steps, broke her neck, and died. So now, on this day that we were over at Joey's house, Joey had gathered us in the dining room. It was a large room with an enormous table, and he sat us down so that we were separated from each other. And then he made his grand announcement. We're going to start the festivities today with a game of Smee. Oh, we all smiled. Smee! We loved that game. It was a hide and seek game. Now, I want to tell you, if you ever have a party and you invite me and you have games to play, if they're outside, horseshoes or badminton or volleyball, or maybe inside, cards or checkers, chess, I'll play. But don't ask me to play hide and seek. I don't play hide and seek. But on that day, I was smiling. This is gonna be fun. And then Joey continued. The lights in the entire house are shut off, except for the living room where my parents are sitting and reading, but the doors are closed. I'll be shutting these lights off in a few minutes. And then he proceeded. He gave each and every one of us a folded piece of paper, and we waited until he nodded his head. And then we looked at our sheets. Mine was blank. As I knew everyone else, 12 others, there were 13 of us playing. 13 had been invited. and 12 of those pieces of paper would be blank. One would have the word Smee, S-M-E-E. A kind of slang word for it's me, Smee, written on that sheet of paper. Well, we all looked and folded our pieces of paper and put them back in our pockets, and we waited. Joey shut the light out. We knew what would happen. The kid who had Smee on his or her paper would quietly get up, tiptoe out the door, and hide. Well, we waited. We heard the door open and close. We couldn't see because it was pitch black. Joey had turned the lights off. And then Joey counted to 100, and then we went looking for Smee. Now, here's how you play. In the darkness, if you find another kid, you tap them and you say, Smee? If they answer Smee, that means they had a blank piece of paper too, and you continued. So that's what I did. I'd find a kid and I'd tap him. Smee? Smee. That was Victor, I could tell. I recognized his voice. I'd feel my way around. There's a kid. I'd tap her. Smee? Smee. I think that was Mary Ellen from my class. Yeah. And I continued. Smee? Smee. I didn't recognize that voice. You see, I knew most of the kids who were playing that day, but not all of them. Some of us were from my school, a parochial school, and some were from the public school where Joey went, and a couple kids were his cousins. So now I thought, I got to find a bit. Where would I know where I would hide. I found my way to that staircase, the wide main stairwell, and I went up to the second floor. I made my way all the way down to the north end, where that locked door was. I didn't try it, but I looked in the room next to it. Now, it was dark, but there was a window in the room, and just enough starshine came through that there was someone sitting on the window seat right in the corner. I could just see a shape. Well, I walked slowly toward the shape, and I now could tell that it was a girl. I could tell because I could see the long hair cascading over her shoulders. In 1962, girls had long hair, boys had short hair. So I went up to her. I tapped her and I said, Smee? And she was silent. That meant I had found her. That was the rule of the game. If you were Smee, you would say nothing. And then here's what would happen. I would sit down next to her and wait for the next person to come. So I sat down. Found you. You're not supposed to say a single word during this game other than Smee. Well, I sat there waiting, and the rest of the game would go like this. Someone would find us and say, Smee, and we would be silent, and that person would sit down. The next person would come, Smee, we would be silent, and they would sit down, and so on, until all of us were gathered right there. And here's the fun part of the game. There's no winner, there's a loser. The last person has to give each person a penny. Now, I know what you're thinking. A penny, big deal. Well, a penny in 1962, I could buy a piece of bazooka bubblegum or a pretzel rod that you could pull out of the cylindrical glass or plastic container that every corner store had. Or I could buy 2 of those little licorice, they called them Mexican hats. They were 2 for a penny. But the loser, who had to give 12 cents out, well, in 1962, for 12 cents, I could buy an ice cream cone at the Dairy Queen and 2 pieces of bazooka bubblegum. So 12 cents was a decent forfeiture. Well, I sat there waiting and nobody was coming, so I ginned up some courage. I had to because, well, I was 12 years old. I was 12 years old and I was a bit awkward, a little bit shy around girls. By 12 years old, Most of the girls in my class were a head taller than me. I had to look up to talk to them. And it didn't help that in the school I went to, from kindergarten to 8th grade, there was an imaginary line that ran right down the middle of the classroom. And all the boys sat on one side and all the girls sat on the other. And there was never any interaction. If there were an interaction, the nun would put an immediate stop to it. So I mustered up enough courage. I said, hey, who are you? I had no idea. And she whispered to me, I'm Brenda. Brenda Jones. I didn't know her. Oh, Brenda. Okay. I sat there and I took another deep breath and I elbowed her and I said, are you, you go to school with Joey or are you one of his cousins? But she didn't reply. She said nothing. I'm Kenny Carnes. I work in the store. Everybody knew me from the store that I worked in, our family business. I was there every single day. I'm one of Benny's kids. My father's name was Ben. Everybody in the neighborhood knew him. He was in that store 7 days a week. I figured she'd know me, but she just sat there, quiet. Well, I could feel my ears getting red, and now I just figured I'll wait for somebody to come. Hurry up. Where are these kids? It was quiet inside this room, as quiet as a tomb, as I waited and waited and waited, and nobody was coming. And then after what seemed an eternity, I heard footsteps. But lots of them, and they were heavy. Nobody was tiptoeing. And then I heard, Carnes! Carnes, where are you? Kenny Carnes, come out! That's not how you played this game. What are they doing? Carnes, where are you? Well, I'm in here. I could hear them walking into the room. What are you doing in here? I found Smee. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. You didn't, because Teddy is Smee. We found him a half hour ago. We've been sitting waiting for you. You're the loser. I'm telling you, I found Smee. Smee is right here. And that's when Joey turned on the lights. And I turned. Between me and the wall, there was nothing. An empty space. I looked at them. They were looking at me. They all had disgusted looks on their faces. What the heck's the matter with you? We've been waiting for like a half an hour. You owe us a penny, Carnes. And one of the kids says, come on, Joey, you promised us ice cream. And they started to leave. Well, I jumped up. I said, Joey, come here. Joey, I'm telling you, there was somebody here. He looked at me and said, there's nobody there. We counted. There was 12 of us, and you're the 13th. There was nobody here with you. I'm telling you, there was a girl here. Who was it? She said her name was Brenda. Joey stopped. What'd you say? I said, she said she was Brenda. He looked at me and said, Brenda who? Brenda Jones. And then Joey looked at me. You stop it. Stop it right now. You cut it out. I said, what? Cut what out? Stop what? Don't you lie to me, Carnes. Don't you lie to me. I said, Joey, I'm not lying to you. I swear that there was a girl sitting right here. She told me her name was Brenda Jones. And then Joey looked in my eyes and he saw I was telling the truth. And then I could see he kind of turned pale. And he looked at me and said, you're not lying. You're not lying. I promise I'm not lying. Swear it. I swear I'm not lying. There was a girl here. She told me her name was Brenda Jones. Well, he took a step back. He took a deep breath. The people my parents bought this house from, they were the Joneses, and their daughter, the one who fell down those steps, broke her neck and died. Her name was Brenda. She was Brenda Jones. I immediately felt an ice-cold wave of air completely envelop me. I began to shake. I began to shiver, and then Joey grabbed me. You got to promise. Don't you tell nobody. Don't you tell nobody. Don't tell my folks. They'll freak out. And don't tell my friends. I'll never come back. You promise. Don't tell nobody. I looked at him. Yeah, Joey, I promise. I won't tell nobody. I promise. I won't ever tell nobody. And I've kept that promise all these years. I haven't told anyone until just now. I've just told you. And you got to promise. Don't you tell nobody. And if you decide to have a Christmas party this year, you're welcome to invite me. And if you're having a game to play outside, horseshoes or badminton, if it's warm enough, I'll play. Or having a snowball fight, sure. And if it's an indoor game of bingo or backgammon or categories, I'll play. But if you decide to have a game of hide and seek, don't ask me to play. 'Cause I don't play hide and seek. There'll be parties for hosting, marshmallows for roasting, and caroling out in the snow. There'll be scary ghost stories, tales of the glories of Christmases long, long ago. Wishing you all a very Merry Christmas, or whatever holiday you celebrate, and may all the ghosts you meet this holiday season be friendly ones.